built a reputation as one of the most talented actors in Hollywood. A respected artist whose name was associated with success at the box office. Today, his name is associated.
Things are getting intense in Sean Diddy Combs' high-stakes federal trial. By day 3 of jury selection, pressure is mounting on both the prosecution and Diddy's powerful legal team. But the real shock came when the judge brought in a familiar face, Ben Chu, the attorney who famously helped Johnny Depp win his defamation case.
In a New York federal courtroom, Sean Diddy Combs told the judge he was, quote, a little nervous. Brett Mobile's criminal trial began this morning. He is trafficking, racketeering, and more. The two sides are now in the process of selecting a jury of 12.
Case against Amber Heard. Over the first 2 days, 167 people were brought in to be considered for the jury. From that group, 49 were immediately dismissed. The rest were asked about 100 yes or no questions, mainly focused on where they get their news and their opinions about Diddy. Some were openly skeptical of him, while others admitted they might struggle to remain unbiased. By the third day, the pool had been narrowed down to 35 potential jurors. These 35 individuals come from a wide range of professions, including design, social work, medicine, and manufacturing. They vary in age, from their 30s to their 80s, and they get their news from diverse sources like YouTube, social media, and newspapers. That makes this case particularly tricky, as these jurors are likely to come across strong opinions from public figures and influencers potentially swaying their views.
Upcoming Diddy trial that's coming up in a few days. I think it's coming up in about 4 or 5 days. How you feel about Cassie testifying against Diddy?
Yes, sir. First of all, it should be absolutely illegal for Cassie to testify against Diddy. When he paid her off, I believe there was an NDA involved in that situation. He was paying her off to shut up and go away. After all the money he paid her, after her signing an NDA, how can she then be brought back into court to testify against them? It reminds me of Bill Cosby. Some of those women who lied on Bill Cosby during his sex abuse cases had NDAs, and the court let them break the NDA. You never see this with a white man accused of the same. You never see this with a Caucasian accused of the same. His lawyer should do all that they can to fight against Cassie testifying. She wasn't sex trafficking. So why are you testifying in a sex trafficking case? He is not being charged with crimes against Cassie. He's being charged with crimes against others. Cassie was paid and dismissed. Why is she being brought back into court after taking that man's money and testifying against him? That right there is clearly an excessive and abusive use of the law. Absolutely wrong. I do not like it. As far as Puffy asking for his case to be delayed, I agree with that. Remember, one of his lawyers recused himself, okay, at least one of them. So he probably has, some new people on his legal team. They got to get reacclimated and get caught up with what's going on. And I saw nothing wrong with him asking for a 2-month delay. He's already in jail. Y'all didn't give him bail, which I also think is a violation of his constitutional rights. So he should have got the 8-week delay. But here we go again. Deion Sanders. We want to make an example out of Puff. And of course, Deion wasn't accused of what Puffy is being accused of. But we want to make an example out of Sean Puffy Combs. He was too confident, he was too big, and it was time for us to...
Take Dr. Umar, for instance, just one of many outspoken personalities who could influence public discourse around the trial. The judge is now working to finalize a group of 12 jurors and 6 alternates, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Diddy is facing 5 serious federal charges tied to alleged illegal activities involving sex and drugs. Prosecutors claim he operated a criminal enterprise, and there's talk that his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, may testify against him. If convicted, Diddy could face life in prison.
Parties are involved. Do you also have a member of the team going through the social media of these jurors, making sure they didn't do anything? I mean, how much research can you do in terms of, did they search for something? Did they say something? I always am curious about that, because you come into court the next day and you always hear a prosecutor or defense attorney say, court, we have an issue we would like to bring to your attention. Juror number 5 was looking at, it's like, how did they find that out? Is that what happens?
Well, it is in a high-stakes case like this. I mean, as you know, not all clients have the resources to hire, jury consultants and to hire investigators. But in this case, you have a defendant who could theoretically be sentenced to life in prison, who has the means. So I'm sure, or I would think, that his counsel have a team of investigators following the jurors around to the extent they can and looking for any electronic footprint.
Now, I mentioned before how can you believe the jurors? How do you know they're telling the truth? Well, I'll tell you what we've seen so far in the Combs jury selection process, you have what seems to be a lot of honesty, okay? Because you had one prospective juror who told the court that she had been sexually assaulted as a teenager, and that if the defense brings up at trial that, look, these alleged victims didn't report what they say happened to them, this juror indicated they would understand why, and they would be biased in the alleged victim's favor.
To navigate the complexity of selecting a fair jury in a celebrity trial, the judge sought insight from Ben Chu. He explained how jury selection becomes even more delicate when a famous defendant is involved. Normally, people are eager to be part of a celebrity case. It feels exciting, even glamorous. But this time, it's different. Few people seem eager to join. Chu believes it's because this isn't a defamation trial like Depp's. It's criminal, and the details are disturbing. The serious nature of the evidence is likely making
Day 2 of jury selection in the racketeering and sex trafficking trial of Sean Combs, seen in court with graying hair. Federal prosecutors are trying to prove Combs used his power, wealth, and fame to force women into drug-fueled orgies he called freak-offs and then threaten them into silence.
The jury questionnaire warning potential jurors there may be evidence of sexually explicit videos, photographs, and language. Many prospective jurors said they had heard of the case and this potentially damning evidence. Video first obtained by CNN showing Combs knocking then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura to the floor of a Los Angeles hotel in 2016 and kicking and dragging her. It was upsetting to watch, one woman told the judge, but I don't know the full story, so I can listen to the facts.
Many prospective jurors said they recognized the names of other celebrities that might come up at trial.
Several potential jurors knew of Combs' cultural significance. The woman said she remembered him from making the band. The man said he liked to listen to hip-hop in the 1990s.
Nobody hold me down.
When Combs became a chart-topping artist. To remain in the jury pool, all had to say they could be fair. The judge tried to keep things moving, so when the defense asked for a bathroom break, Combs apologized, saying, "Sorry, Your Honor, I'm a little nervous to..."
Potential jurors hesitant. Chu also shared what kind of jurors the defense might prefer. Young, open-minded individuals who aren't easily rattled could be more sympathetic to Diddy. He also mentioned that male jurors might be favored, not because women are less fair, but because
put Johnny Depp on the stand. It's always a high-risk strategy. It worked for you. If you were representing Sean Diddy Combs, would you put him up?
Well, we put Johnny up because he was telling the truth. So that was a very easy decision to make, and he had the burden of proof, and frankly, we couldn't have stopped him even if we wanted to, but we didn't want to. Telling the truth as he did over several days, you're not telling the truth, skilled attorneys on the other side are going to puncture that. I believe in that system. I think in this case, I don't think he's got any choice. Given that video, he's got to explain it. He's got to say that he's terribly sorry for it, but that was an aberration. That's not who he is. He's simply...
Because some of the case's details may be emotionally triggering. Behind the scenes, Diddy was reportedly furious when the judge brought in Ben Chu. Sources say he and his legal team were blindsided by the move and fear it could influence the direction of the trial. Jury selection is crucial. Who ends up in that jury box could ultimately determine the outcome of this entire case.
I think you want somebody who wants to serve, someone eager to serve, because that suggests that person might be inclined toward a celebrity like Diddy. I would also, in this case, I would want men, not because men support abuse, but I could see this being very difficult for women jurors. I would want younger jurors as well. I don't know that older jurors would be good for him.
Do you care where they get their news? Do you care if they go on social media?
I wouldn't care so much about social media. Certainly watching you on Law and Crime would be a real problem. But no, I wouldn't care too much. I mean, in fact, if they were reading the celebrity media, TMZ, Rolling Stone, that might be an encouraging thing for Diddy's counsel.
Now, Ben, according to the court today, they expect preemptory challenges on Friday. You have a lot of jurors who saw the Cassie tape. You have a lot of jurors who were exposed to this case or something that's been going on with Sean Combs, know who he is, maybe know a list of the celebrities or places that were potentially going to be brought up in this case. Difficulty of sitting 8 weeks on this jury, but they're going to be seeing and hearing a lot. Do you think that it's going to be tough to sit a fair and impartial jury in Sean Combs' criminal case?
Well, I think that we will have a fair and impartial jury. I think the problem is going to come in, with the Cassandra Venturas tape. I mean, whether you've seen that before, you're certainly going to see that during the trial, and I think that's highly problematic, obviously, for Diddy, whether they've seen it before or not.
Yeah, because the prosecution is saying she was not only running away from Combs, she was running away from a freak-off, that there was a sex worker in that hotel room, and that goes to the charge of sex trafficking, and also racketeering, because sex trafficking is a part of that as well. Okay, so the trial's about to start. We know that Sean Combs early in the week said to the court, I'm feeling a little nervous today. Let's say openings begin day 1, May 12th, okay? What do you advise your celebrity client to do and not to do as this trial begins and progresses for 8 weeks?
I would remind him to remember that every second he is in the courtroom, at least one juror and probably more are going to be looking at him. So he should act as if he were testifying every second.
Hearing before Sean Combs' trial starts, when he walked into federal court today, he appeared to be looking for his family. They've pretty much been at all of the hearings that I've been to, but there was no presence of his sons or his mother or his sister who had previously been at those hearings. So here's what came out of today's hearing. Number one, the government acknowledged that they offered Combs a plea deal. Combs acknowledged he has no interest in taking that. They're going to move forward with the trial. They also talked about the jury selection process, which one legal expert I spoke to said is probably the most important thing that you want to pay close attention to before the actual trial starts. And thirdly, we learned that Combs will be adding 2 new attorneys to his defense team. And just to recap, Combs, who is 55 years old, could spend the rest of his life behind bars if convicted on sex trafficking and racketeering. He has pleaded not guilty.